Anthropic ships a new feature almost every week, and every launch post tells you the new thing is essential, that you should switch to it and that you should rebuild your whole workflow around it. I'm ranking all 32 of them on one criteria, which is daily use, not benchmarks, launch posts, or what Twitter says. Whether the feature shows up in my real work, and finally, whether I'd cancel my max plan if it disappeared tomorrow. I've sorted them into 4 tiers, which are lives up to the hype, quiet workhorses, overhyped, and forgotten. Top of the list is Claude Code. I gave it 5 stars because this is the foundation of everything I do. This is the chat window every workflow begins in. Everything I'm building right now happens inside Claude Code. If you've never opened it, you access Claude Code through the terminal or through the Claude desktop app. I run mine through the terminal. Next up is skills. I gave it 5 stars because this is how I turn the repetitive work in my business into one-line commands I fire from any chat. Important distinction here. Skills exist in both Claude Chat, Cowork, and Code, but they do different things in each. In Claude Chat and Cowork, a skill does one thing within the limits of the chat interface. In Claude Code, a skill executes an entire workflow across multiple agents and API calls. That's where it really starts to compound. I have 5 running for design, video, inbox work, and they save me hours every week. And here's exactly how you can make one. So you have 3 options. You write a skill from scratch, which I don't recommend. You upload a pre-built one if someone has shipped what you need, or the move I use most, which is to chat with Claude naturally until you get to an output you want, then tell it to save the workflow as a skill. Connectors I gave 5 stars because this is the thing that turned Claude into a real operations layer rather than a chat window with a browser bolted on. I run 7 of these across my apps, but the critical tip here is when you install a new connector is to check the tool permissions because by default, they're read-only. Flip them to write access or your connector won't work with you. Sub-agents, I gave 4 stars. These are basically parallel workers that run cheap and stay underused by most people. My favorite use case is QA review. When I'm building an infographic, one sub-agent runs the build and another one scores the output against my brand guidelines before the main thread sees it. And this QA sub-agent essentially avoids Claude producing subpar outputs. Claude Cowork, I gave 4 stars. This is basically the desktop version of Claude Code with end-to-end execution. The thing that makes Cowork compound is that it gets smarter over time. Basically, I'm writing every weekly edition of my newsletter inside a Cowork project so it remembers the previous edition and the final output we landed on. Each new issue reinforces the last and the writing gets sharper over time. Next is agent teams. I gave agent teams 4 stars because I genuinely love this feature. I run 2 myself, one for the design process and one for my Instagram reels. But the honest catch here is credits. Agent teams burn through your usage allowance fast. So for simpler workflows, it's easier to use a single sub-agent and skip the orchestration overhead. Claude routines, I gave 4 stars. I'll be honest, I haven't used Claude routines, but I know exactly the problem it solves. Up until now, if you wanted to do anything in Claude Code or Cowork, your computer had to be on. Routines fix that. They run on Anthropic's cloud, so you no longer need to leave your machine on overnight. And this is basically the NA10 killer for most automation work. On to the next tier, the quiet workhorses. The features nobody talks about that are doing the most heavy lifting in the background. Top of this tier is Claude MD. I gave it 5 stars because this is the single most important file in my entire stack. Every project folder, every skill, every workflow I built inherits one of these. You can either type /init at the start of the Claude Code session and it builds the Claude MD for you. It's basically plain markdown and it's the easiest format for an LLM to understand. Mine holds my brand rules, my voice, my output format in one place. Write your Claude MD before you write a single prompt and everything else compounds on top of it. Commands, also 5 stars. These are how I take a 200-word prompt and turn it into an 8-character command. Think of them as a way to activate skills inside Claude Code. The only way I make new ones is the same trick I use for skills. Chat with Claude until the workflow is dialed in, then ask it to save the thing as a /command. Plan mode, I gave 5 stars. This is the alignment step that runs before Claude builds anything. Claude proposes a layout, asks me what I want changed, and then it codes. A tip most people miss is if you're mid-task and the outputs start feeling off, drop back into plan mode to realign on where you actually want to take it. This is way better than letting Claude run down the wrong path and burning token. Memory, I give it 4 stars. If you don't have memory enabled, this is the simplest fix you can make to your Claude experience. Just tell Claude to update its memory and it will. The biggest unlock is using memory as a context hub. The more Claude knows about you, the less you have to re-explain yourself. Projects, 4 stars. This is the upgrade that most people miss. Co-work projects beat Claude chat projects on every dimension that matter. A co-work project gets smarter with time. A Claude chat project, by comparison, sits frozen. You have to keep providing more examples to bring it forward. Interactive questions, 4 stars. Claude asks you multiple choice questions you click rather than type, but if you want to invoke them on demand, just type the command ask user question, and Claude will force itself to ask before continuing. Auto mode, 4 stars. This stops the approve and deny loop that wears you down. If you're inside Claude Code, having this enabled is an absolute must, but watch out. Run this in a sandbox environment if you're doing anything high stakes. Claude has been known to delete entire code bases when given too much autonomy. Live artifacts, 3 stars. These are basically self-contained HTML pages that pull fresh data from your connectors every time you open them. Honestly, I don't use this much myself, but I see the benefit clearly for companies, because live artifacts pull live data that don't go stale the way static dashboards do. On to tier 3, the spicy bit. Overhyped features. Probably going to lose some viewers here, but Claude in Chrome, 3 stars. Demos look incredible. Whereas in daily use, I open it once a fortnight at most. The use case I do reach for it is extracting things I can't be bothered to do manually. This could be pulling resources off a course site, moving folders around. Is it the killer feature people make it out to be? For me, no. Claude design, I gave this 3 stars. 3 issues. It burns through your max plan allowance fast on iteration heavy projects. It's not a one-shot solution, and lots of refinement is needed to land on something I'd actually use. And the infographics it produces sit well below what I'd get from Claude Code. For 90% of what people use it for, you're better off in Claude Code. Deep research, 3 stars. The output is excellent, but a single run will burn through a lot of usage. Honestly, it's not changing my workflow. Artifacts, 3 stars. Useful for one-off renders, but I rarely use them. You're better off building a live artifact if the data needs to stay fresh, or creating a Word doc straight from the Claude session if you want to share it, or using Claude Code or CoWork's full file system access if you want to keep iterating. Adaptive thinking, 3 stars. This is the hard reasoning toggle. Most of the time the model picks the right amount on its own, so I leave it on auto. Computer use, 2 stars. I absolutely hate computer use. When CoWork starts taking over my computer, I can't do whatever else I'm trying to work on. I'm sat there waiting. So if you have a spare Mac that you can leave Claude on like an automated employee, brilliant for you. But for me, watching it click through a workflow on my main machine takes longer than I'd take to do it myself. Voice mode, 2 stars. Honestly, voice mode is kind of trash. Dictate mode is way better for talking to Claude. Claude Dispatch, 2 stars. This is how you access Claude CoWork from your mobile phone. The catch is you have to have CoWork open on your computer for Dispatch to work, but for most people, it's not a useful solution. Remote control, 2 stars. This is very similar to Dispatch. This is Anthropic's take on remote controlling Claude from another device, but do I see the benefit? Sure. Tier 4, the forgotten ones. Custom rules or preferences in Claude Chat, I gave it 3 stars. I have custom rules set up, but I find sometimes it overpowers whatever I actually ask Claude to do, because it always adheres to the structure, no matter the task. Memory has mostly replaced this for me anyway. Web search, 2 stars. So this is useful inside long workflows, but do I use it often? No. Perplexity is far better if you want a proper deep dive on the latest stuff. Hooks, 2 stars. Personally, I haven't found a use case yet. Plugins, 2 stars. A plugin is basically a bundle of skills that you access via Claude CoWork. This feature still feels early in 2026, but I see the potential use cases. Interactive charts, 2 stars. They look great and they're functional. Whereas, have they helped me in my day-to-day workflow? No, not really. Scheduled tasks, 2 stars. This would probably help a lot of people. For me, I've ended up skipping them because your computer has to be open for them to run, which kind of defeats the purpose. Routines, which now run in Anthropic's cloud, that problem goes away. Output styles, 1 star. Tried it once, didn't find it good, haven't gone back to it since. A real skill bakes in your full brand and your output format together in one place. Pick that as a deeper investment. Excel and PowerPoint. Claude in Excel and PowerPoint, 1 star. Genuinely a useful feature. For me though, I'm never in Microsoft Office, so this stays at 1 star. But if you spend your day in Microsoft Office, then bump it up a few stars. But just do it without me. So that's my honest breakdown of every Claude feature in 2026. There's a lot of advice online about how to use Claude. Most of it is theoretical, written by people who haven't actually built a business on top of the platform. This is my breakdown from someone running a media business off the back of his personal brand. Write a Claude MD for your most important projects within Claude Code. Build one skill for a workflow you do the most often, and wire one connector and flip the permissions to write access. Everything else compounds on top of these three. And one last thing. I'm planning to launch some digital products on exactly how to use Claude for social media, content, and personal brand work. The actual workflows I'm running every day. And tell me in the comments, what's your most overrated Claude feature and which one do you wish more people used? Stay curious, stay human, and rank your AI stack ruthlessly. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to click the link in the description to get access to everything I mentioned and more via my Substack newsletter. So thank you, and see you again soon.